Back for another random review that you guys picked for me, and this time you picked Armada Tidal Wave. Now, it was really close between him and Unicron, but you know what? I've already discussed the big bad planetoid once before, so I want to talk about something new. And this is giving me a good reason to show how a brickish transformer can still be a good transformer. There's a lot here, so I will try to be quick. Tidal Wave's main feature is the fact that he splits into 3 different vehicles for his vehicle mode, and each one focuses around a unique gimmick. We're going to start with the Troop Transport, which forms the rear section of his big battleship mode. As you can see, very large piece, very much larger than the other two, and rolls quite well. I point that out for later reasons that will soon become clear. Very big on the gray. It's everywhere around here. Very nicely detailed. You've got a lot of little molded in detailing along the wings and the sides. Very much appreciated. Looks quite nice. And some rather odd details. I'm not quite sure why this one panel is exposed. Not that I mind. I mean, it gives it a little bit more flavor. It works. And you see up here we have the bridge of the ship. You can see a big scale here, because this thing is supposed to be enormous. If this is supposed to be where humans would sit. Not that they would on this, never mind. Anyway, it's a pretty nice vehicle. I mean, you can make it a spaceship. Okay, you got thrusters in the back here, I should point out. That's not bad. You can make it a spaceship with the wings. I prefer to keep them down like this, like it's skidding across water. And, like I said, it is a troop transport, so its main gimmick. Lounge chairs. Yeah, it's ready for a day at the beach, literally. I mean, apparently the Decepticons want to be ready to storm Normandy at a moment's notice. Here, you can fit 4 minicons comfortably, 6 if you really want to cram them in. It's a very simple, kind of goofy little gimmick, but you know, it works perfectly for this vehicle, and it really adds a lot to Tidal Wave. It brings a lot of imaginative modes you can make out of this. You know, if you want to make bases, or hell, make a park bench for all I care. It gives you a lot of little options just for goofing around. Overall, no, this might be one of the more solid modes for Tidal Wave. And let's see what I mean by that as we get to piece number 2. We move on to the aircraft carrier, which has my favorite gimmick, but also has a few shortcomings compared to the last vehicle. Let's take a look at it briefly. It's in a much lighter shade of gray plastic, and not nearly as detailed along the side. There's a lot of these little lines cut into it, but they really don't add a whole lot. I do like the detailing up here in the bridge section, because there's a lot of tiny little windows and detailings in there. This is molded to be much larger in appearance, but is actually a much smaller component of Tidal Wave. You got some red lines down here, lines down here. I never understood what these diagonal lines on an aircraft carrier was before. It looks like a 2-lane road that just went completely off course to me. I'm sure they have some reason. Once again, we have random exposed wires where there should be a panel here. It adds a little bit more detail, and I'm glad to see it carry over. Now, on the downside, well, his hands from Robot Mode are quite obvious here. And, yeah, you can kind of pretend that these are turbines, but, you know, they don't really look like a whole lot. It detracts a little bit from the overall vehicle. The gimmick, on the other hand, is actually quite cool. See, you'll notice this big gray box and this long tab on the side. It's a little tricky to get up, especially if you haven't played with yours in a while, and this tends to stick. But giving it a good shove will cause the whole thing to flip up on a spring and expose a tiny little folded up purple block, which unfolds into his minicon ramjet. Extremely tiny little minicon, but the elevator gimmick is quite neat. It has a lot of little uses, and it is quite visually effective. They even painted the underside just a little bit to give it a little bit of detailing. So the gimmick here they really paid attention to. So that kind of makes up for the slight shortcomings of this mode. So how about we move on to number 3. Component number 3, if I remember my game of Battleship correctly, is called a Destroyer, and is by far the most colorful and somewhat most disappointing piece. I'll get to that in a bit. As you can see, it retains the dark gray plastic from the first component, introducing this vibrant, or actually not even vibrant, it's more of a sickly, toxic green. I'm really not a fan of the colors on this. I mean, between the green, the gray, the purple, and this bright orange that gets stuffed into the back for apparently no reason. It's all robot mode decoration, but here, it really just distracts from what is otherwise a really well-molded piece. You can see the pontoons in the front, very thin, very angular. This is meant for speed. It's very easy to tell by the design. You can see a little bit extra paint detailing in the airbrushed bronze at the front, as well as these silver grates here on the side. If I had them, you would see missiles that shoot out of the front. I actually have them, but they tend to shoot all over the place when I shoot these reviews, so they're back on the shelf. A lot of little gun turrets. This is what I like most about this piece. You've got 4 different gun turrets. Each one of them, the guns do move up and down, so you can pose them a little bit, and this is the gimmick of this component. We take Ramjet once more, plugging him onto the top and pushing him forward. If the switch doesn't stick, rotates all the guns around. It's actually quite the dynamic little gimmick. You know, you can see even these little small, I don't know, if these are cannons, I guess these are machine guns, or, I don't know. They are more weapon emplacements. And while some of these do end up shooting itself, it's still kind of a neat gimmick that all of that goes off at once just by pushing one switch. So it is a very nice little gimmick. It's really just the colors that throw off the aesthetics. If they had retained the original purple from the Japanese release, this would have looked much nicer. As it stands, this one's got a few flaws. Not just in the colors, but there's a fair few more gaps in this one than the other modes for other reasons. But we're going to get to those in a bit. Now it's time for one more vehicle. Finally, the combined vehicle mode, and this is where the review is going to get very difficult for me because this thing is absolutely massive. To size comparison, cookie. Yeah. Tell you what, how about a Coke can just to show you a little better? There we go. So you get an idea, this thing is absolutely massive. Having no electronic gimmicks kind of helps the mass of this toy out. It's allowed to be big because the budget was there for it. And as you can see, it's pretty much just the main 3 toys combined. Now, I demonstrated that this piece rolls very well. The whole thing actually does maintain a nice roll, so you got a little bit of playability. The other 2, not so much. Individually, they don't roll very well because it's just tiny little plastic caster wheels that I never like and never work. But altogether, it's got enough weight to do it, so no, I'll forgive it for now. You can see the Destroyer's bridge is now acting as the main bridge for the entire thing, and this could either be a massive spaceship ready to destroy entire planets, or a boat so inconceivably big that you could destroy entire naval fleets on its own. Now, all the gimmicks still work, though really the only one you're going to have any luck using is going to be the Destroyers. The Carrier's elevator is hindered quite a bit by the Destroyer's front pieces as well, and the Destroyer also blocks these from lifting up. So if you want the seats, you gotta fold them out before you attach everything. But it's a very huge, imposing, very awesome looking vehicle. Again, the green is just kind of randomly thrown in there, but this one is so big and bulky, it really doesn't detract nearly as much. So, very impressive overall. Really digging this one, though it does have a little of a, yeah, that's unfortunate. And it's not just mine, I heard a lot of reports back in the day of that. It's a minor fault, though. It is an incredible, incredible vehicle. Now onto robot mode, and again, This thing is really freaking huge. At least for a $25 figure it is. Yeah, this thing ran 25 bucks back in the day. It's a lot of value here so far. And again, this is becoming very, very difficult for me to review because I am a long way away from this toy just to get the whole thing into frame. But we are going to persevere anyway as I very carefully reach for the toy and demonstrate and try to rotate it around so you can see more of it. What I really like about this toy is that even though it is 3 separate vehicles, you do not have to separate anything for transformation. It can all be transformed right from the super vehicle. So it's a really nice touch. It's a very well thought out design. For as deceptively simple as he is, there are a ton of things going on with this figure. Now, once again, I'm going to go to the colors. Originally, this thing was mostly purple and gray. The green was thrown in because they had too many purple toys, and rather than repaint one of the toys that was just part of the Universe line, they wanted to repaint the one that was actually in the cartoon, you know, because that makes so much sense. But it's left us with this very weird shade of green all over him, and it kind of distracts, especially in the head. I really wish the head at least had been kept purple. But, oh well, it is what it is. If you got the Japanese version, then you're probably fine. Articulation on this is quite limited. You've got a good range on the hips, but there's no forward knee motion, just sideways as a result of the transformation. So you don't really have a whole lot you can do there. You know, it doesn't really make it very useful. You've got plenty of arm articulation. Very, very loud, clicky joints. The elbows as well. And even the fingers, which actually surprised me. It's actually part of the transformation, but it creates fingers, so it counts. And, well, that's pretty much it. I will admit, this thing is a huge toy with a ton of little tricks, but it is a brick. You're not going to get a whole lot of articulation out of it. It just stands there. It looks pretty. It looks very intimidating. Now, you can still use the guns, which in this case give him self-twisting nipples. But it does look a little bit silly in this mode. And naturally, none of the other gimmicks work as well. Now, I know I'm complimenting the gimmicks a lot here, and you are probably wondering why, because usually I am so down on gimmicks. Well, it's because that unlike most, which is just, oh hey, look at this little neat trick I can do, Tidal Waves tends to add a little bit of character and playability to him, from seats for a bunch of minicons to always being ready for the attack, even if he has to shoot his own nipples to do it. He comes off as a very imposing figure, and a very cool figure, despite relying on those gimmicks. So it works out in the end. Now, of course, there is one other gimmick to this toy that we must cover. Oh, the gimmicks. The gimmicks just never end for this toy. We've gone from little vehicles to big vehicle to robot to big combined armor. See, it was a big deal in Armada when we found out that Megatron, for the first time after Prime getting it so often, would have a super mode of his own with actual armor formed from another Transformer. But this was a rather disappointing execution in the end. Tidal Wave just basically forms onto his arms and his back as huge, huge chunks of kibble, and it really doesn't come off as well as I think Hasbro intended. He gets the giant flight pack in the back, which is pretty good. Okay, that one I will give it. That's a useful upgrade. But the rest of Tidal Wave just kind of hangs off of his arms. I mean, this hanging a aircraft carrier on your arm, I'm not quite sure what that does to increase battle ability, but this I can understand a little bit more. I mean, this is kind of his replacement for the G1 Megatron arm cannon, I guess. You've got extra rockets out the front for the launchers, and the gimmick still works, so you can rotate all the guns. It's very difficult to pose this, too, because the pieces are so heavy. Even Megatron's heavy, ratchety joints can't really hold Tidal Wave up. So, much like Super Mode Prime, after you get all of his bits onto him, All he can really do is stand there and make idle threats while he points his big belly gun at you. No, it's what it is. It's an extra mode, it's one I really don't bother with, and it's not my favorite super mode. But overall, despite being a brick, Tidal Wave is a surprisingly good toy. There's a lot of little tricks to it, and despite being built around them, he doesn't seem to suffer from them, and it seems to add more to the toy than take away, unlike other gimmicks from Armada. So in a nutshell, it's a brick, but it's a good brick, and that's how it should be done. And once again, it is time. The magic blue bag of destiny, with all the little pretty stars on it. Once again, I pull a chip, a random chip that I cannot see. Whichever series comes off, whichever series is marked on the chip, you decide which toy from that line I will review next. I'm reaching into my stack, pulling out a random chip, hoping for a special one. JBW. That's Japanese Beast Wars. So Beast Wars 2, Beast Wars Neo, any of the Robot Masters molds would even count in this, I guess. So if you see it, or if you've seen it in my collection, or you just want to take a wild guess that I've got it, suggest it. And let's see what you guys come up with next.